Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're putting on our analytical lenses to look at the hidden architecture of national administrative compliance. We're going to bypass all the surface-level narratives and strictly examine the cause and effect relationships, the rigid rules, and the totally non-obvious details that dictate how a massive state apparatus processes human and corporate entities. Think about it for a second. How exactly does an immense national infrastructure track, classify, secure, and regulate millions of individuals and businesses that are constantly crossing borders? Well, it absolutely cannot rely on human intuition. It requires a rigid, mathematical framework. Here is the roadmap for our analysis today. We'll start with establishing identity, then corporate structuring, tax mechanisms, transnational obligations, residency protocols, and finally, systemic audits. Let's get right into it. Section 1. Establishing identity. This is really the absolute linchpin of administrative classification. At the very foundation of this entire framework is the numeric identifier. Think of the taxpayer identification number not just as a record on a piece of paper, but as your literal key to financial integration. The non-obvious detail here? For foreign nationals, these numbers are highly conditional. They actually require periodic renewal to maintain their validity within the state apparatus. If you let that number expire, your legal ability to interact with the financial ecosystem is instantly severed. Why? Because the framework defaults to exclusion. It automatically locks the gates to protect its borders from unverified actors. You can clearly see the structural difference here between permanent resident tracking and the temporary conditional tracking of foreign actors. Citizens are granted a permanent numerical anchor. Transnational entities, on the other hand, are assigned specialized codes with built-in expiration logic. This is fascinating because it forces a continuous behavioral loop. The foreign entity must constantly re-engage with the state machinery just to prove their ongoing compliance. Now, to mitigate fraud and protect these identities, the administrative framework implements some incredibly strict security protocols, like the algorithmic generation and annual rotation of identity protection pins. It's a brilliant cause and effect mechanism. You verify your identity every single year, and in return, the infrastructure generates a temporary single-use key that unlocks your ability to file for that specific year. Moving on to Section 2, corporate structuring and the mechanisms of entity formation. For international founders, there is a highly precise pipeline to form a corporation. You register the entity, you appoint a resident agent, sure, but step 3 is the massive bottleneck, obtaining a corporate ID. The state enforces a strict rule where this specific numeric identifier is the absolute mandatory key required to unlock financial integration, like opening a bank account. It's kind of amusing, yet terrifying, that millions of dollars in global capital can literally sit completely paralyzed, just waiting for an 8-digit sequence to be generated by a government computer. Without it, your entity essentially only exists on paper. Now here's a highly non-obvious detail that traps a lot of foreign operators. Transnational entities without a physical presence or income connected to a jurisdiction often assume, hey, I owe the bureaucracy nothing. But the network actually prioritizes visibility above all else. To satisfy compliance, you are still required to submit informational data reporting, so the infrastructure extracts your data rather than your capital, just to map out the global playing field and prevent regulatory blind spots. All right, Section 3, tax mechanisms. Let's look at algorithmic rules and credits. Take a look at this algorithmic conflict resolution tool, known as the Tiebreaker rule. Let's say multiple parties, like 2 relatives living in the same home, try to claim the exact same dependent. How does the system resolve it? Purely through data. It simply compares the adjusted gross income of both parties, and the highest number wins. It's a completely binary, unarguable mechanism designed to maintain processing efficiency without getting bogged down in messy personal disputes. The state also uses the tax framework to heavily incentivize targeted social behaviors through incredibly specific numeric limits. Take the adoption tax credit, for example. The system allocates exactly $17,280 as the absolute maximum. It's not $17,000 flat, it's not $18,000, it is exactly $17,280. This hyper-precise limitation mathematically balances the state's desire to subsidize a social good against the strict need to protect its own fiscal boundaries. Section 4. Transnational obligations in cross-border relief. When it comes to jurisdictional power, it is fundamentally tied to physical time. The substantial presence test maps out conditional logic based on a very precise threshold of 183 days. If you spend high-frequency time across the border and cross that mark, the algorithm automatically flips your status to resident for tax purposes. Literally, your physical body acting as a geographic data point directly dictates your legal and financial obligations. To prevent the catastrophic friction of double taxation, the apparatus provides specific cross-border administrative relief mechanisms. Entities can invoke international treaties, apply lower withholding rates, or claim foreign tax credits. And crucially, the protocol allows for temporal flexibility. If a credit can't be used immediately, the 10-year carry-forward rule acts as a pressure valve, allowing you to retain the value of that asset for an entire decade. That brings us to Section 5, Residency Protocols, specifically the pathways to naturalization. Here we see exactly how precise algorithmic age and residency exemptions are applied to naturalization requirements. Usually, language proficiency is strictly mandatory. However, the state calculates your integration via a mathematical formula of age plus time spent within the jurisdiction. If you hit 50 years of age with 20 years of residency, boom, the language requirement is completely overridden by the algorithm. Now, we absolutely must distinguish the critical legal difference between maintaining a continuous administrative domicile and your actual physical presence. They are not the same thing. Physical presence is just the raw calculation of days inside the border. Continuous residence requires an unbroken administrative link. You could take an extended absence that might not drastically lower your physical presence count, but it could completely sever your continuous residence chain, effectively resetting all of your administrative progress back to zero. Finally, Section 6, Systemic Audits. Let's talk enforcement and compliance. The state effectively outsources its frontline enforcement by forcing some really severe due diligence requirements onto compliance practitioners. These professionals are mandated to complete exhaustive checklists, retain data for exactly 3 years, and crucially, apply a strict knowledge requirement. If an entity provides an anomaly or an inconsistency, the practitioner is legally bound to investigate it. If they don't, they face punitive measures themselves. To really illustrate the massive friction of non-compliance, just consider this number: 500. When an identity claim is flagged as fraudulent or anomalous, the processing delay to manually verify and resolve it can take up to 500 days. That is over a year and a half of being completely frozen out of the fast-lane digital network, forcing the entity into a grueling manual review. The state uses time itself as a barrier. When an entity actually decides to challenge an administrative ruling, they have to walk a very exact pathway for audit reconsideration. It's a highly structured cause and effect process. You must pinpoint the exact disputed finding, isolate the conflicting variables, inject new supporting evidence into the apparatus, and then wait for a secondary algorithmic or human determination. Which brings us to a final, pretty provocative thought. We've just analyzed a highly complex, mathematically rigid, border-based administrative framework. But as global mobility accelerates exponentially and commerce becomes entirely decoupled from geography, how will these legacy enforcement mechanisms adapt? Can an infrastructure built entirely on physical borders actually survive in a truly borderless reality? It's a fascinating structural problem to think about. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Keep analyzing the hidden systems around you, and I'll see you next time.